Welcome back. We're again talking about graphing absolute value functions and trying to figure out what maybe the equations are to an absolute value function. Picking it up from section 2.7. So as a reminder, we're going to add one thing to this. Our function will take this form. F of x equals, the only thing I'm adding on here is an a value. This number, this a, is going to change the steepness or how steep the v is that's created, either going up or coming down. Right. Remember, the h and the k are the vertex. That's how we find our vertex, just like we did over the last week. The a value, if it's 1, or if it's greater than 1, like 2, 3, 4, or even like the opposites, like -2, -4, -8. This is going to kind of serve as a slope to them. It's going to make it steeper. So instead of maybe going up like this, it's going to go up like this. It's going to be a steeper V. If this is less than 1, like 1/2, 1/4, 0.35, or -0.35, or -1/2, or -1/8, or something like that, it's going to make it flatter. It's going to make it a flatter V going this way instead of up. Keep that in mind. So it always starts with finding your vertex. If you can't kind of see, make it a little bit better. That function, I know it's right in the line of that light. So f of x equals 5, absolute value x plus 2 minus 4. So we want to find our vertex. Our vertex, what's going to make this equal to 0? It's going to be a -2. And that makes the y value a -4. We just copy that down. So making my xy chart, I'm boxing up my vertex. Boxing it up because it's important. That's where we start. And I'm going to go up in order. -1, 0, -3, -4. Remember last time when we talked? Think about what this 5 is going to do to this number. There should be a pattern that you start seeing. So if I plug -1 in here, -1, the absolute value of -1 plus 2 is 1. Absolute value of 1 is 1. 5 minus 4 is 1. And again, because it's symmetric, this is also going to be 1, -3, 1. Next, I'm going to plug 0 in. Love 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. So from my vertex, my y values, as the x's are going up or down by 1, -4 to 1 is plus 5. 1 to 6 is plus 5. Same thing down here. Look what number this is. This is not coincidence. And that's something we can start recognizing. So now we can graph our function. We start at -2, -4. And again, we are sketching these freehand. I'm not looking, you don't have to be totally precise. Identifying your vertex and just kind of showing that it's a V is good enough for me. We're just sketching these. So we have -1, 1, -3, 1, 0, 6, and -4, 6. And we can see that this V is a lot steeper than one that would, without that 5. Because now we go up 5 and over 1, up 5 and over 1. Oops, I think that should be on 1 and that should be on 1. Sorry. All right? So again, we start with our vertex. Second problem. We have f of x equals negative. Don't remember what number I put there from your notes. So negative 1/2 is my A value. Absolute value. X minus 4 plus 3. So again, I want to start, what is my vertex? Look in here. Don't worry about this fraction. What's going to make this equal to 0? A positive 4. And again, let me tilt that up so you can actually see the problem. Negative 1/2, absolute value, x minus 4 plus 3. So again, it is 4, comma 3. Again, I'm going to make it nice and easy. 3, 2, 5, 6. So if I plug a 5 in here, five minus 4, absolute value of 5 minus 4 is absolute value of 1. Absolute value of 1 is 1. Negative 1/2 times 1 is negative 1/2. Plus 3 is 2.5. Which means this is also 2.5. If I plug a 6 in here, six minus 4 becomes the absolute value of 2. Absolute value of 2 is positive 2. Negative half of 2 is negative 1. And I get 2 here and 2 there. So again, look what's happening. Negative 1/2, this is negative 1/2, this is minus 1/2, 2.5 minus 1/2 is 2, and so forth. So this is going to kind of flatten out, and we're going to see it. Now if you want to avoid fractions or decimals, instead of going up by 1s, maybe I go up by 2s, but that might be a little confusing right now. So I would stick with just going up by 1s and seeing this relationship. So now, graphing this, we have our points. You're going to see that this is going to flatten out because this 1/2 is smaller than 1. The only thing is the negative, it's going to make it go upside down. So I'm going to start at 4, 3. There's 4, 3. I have 5 and 2.5, 3 and 2.5. 2 and 2, 6 and 2. And there's my graph, flattening out as we go. And again, it actually flips over the x-axis because we're multiplying our a value by a negative number. There's that reflection across the x-axis. Now, we are going to look at some graphs. If you can, please look at your notes on this, in case it's kind of hard to see here. Okay. So, for the first graph, I'm going to kind of pull this closer. Use this. So, as we're looking at this graph right here, we see it's an absolute value graph because there's a V here. So we need to identify this vertex. What is our vertex? We come over here, it's negative 5 and up 3. Positive 3. So we found a vertex. Remember, our equation is f of x equals a times the absolute value of x minus h plus k. Remember that this is minus. So what's our h value? It is a negative 5. And it is a positive 3. What do we do when we have minus a negative? We change it to plus. So our vertex is taken care of. X plus 5 in the absolute value plus 3. Just like that. Now we have to look at our slope. How do we go from this point and where's it crossing the grid again? Up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. And it stays right there. So our a value is 1. We don't have to include it. So the equation is now f of x equals the absolute value of 5x, or x plus 5, and then plus 3. Let's look at one more graph. We will do more of these in class. So as I'm looking at this one, I can see it's a lot flatter graph. It's not going to be where it's just up 1 over 1. So you have to identify our vertex. Here's our origin. We're coming over 1, and we're going down 5. So our vertex is -1, or +1, -5. So now we want to come up with our equation to this graph, or our equation to this. Again, I'm going to start with the f of x equals my a value, x minus h, plus k. I'm going to plug in my numbers. X minus 1, that doesn't change. And plus a -5, or minus 5. Now my a value, I'm starting at this point, and I'm going up 1, and how many over? 1, 2, 3. Up 1, 1, 2, 3. The slope is 1/3. That's my a value. So this equation, once we clean up that plus and -5, would be written as f of x equals 1/3 absolute value x minus 1 minus 5. These numbers here, the -1 and -5, come from our vertex. The 1/3 comes from the slope of the two lines. Focus on getting the vertex and focus on counting. It'll make it a lot easier. Hopefully this helps. We'll talk more about these later.